So we've just done 7 rescues in about 2 days, and it was pretty tough conditions. We started, I think, at about 3 o'clock in the morning and worked basically the whole way through, and ended the next day probably about 3 in the afternoon, and it was kind of culmination. There was about 3 boats at once at that point. We were pretty lucky. They went fairly smoothly, but the problem is when you get over 100 people on a raft that size, it's about 8 to 10 people per square meter. So the main thing you got to do is just keep everyone calm, because often there's water coming on board. There's loads of children. We had a lot of children on these ones, a lot of young women, so it's just quite scary because you want to make sure no one's getting crushed, no one's falling into the water. A lot of these people can't swim. If you think about how many people are on one raft, I mean, in the United Kingdom, if there's 5 people in distress in the ocean on a fishing vessel, you'll potentially have numerous vessels scrambled to go and assist. So to talk about whether or not we need more help when we have 785 people in the water that one ship is taking care of with one rib, I don't even know how to quantify that. You know, at what point do you say we have enough? There's no, it's crazy. The situation's insane to have that many people whose lives are at risk, and 1 or 100 ships. At what point do you say it's okay? It's just not. So yeah, we need more help, but we don't really see this as a solution. It's not a solution to rescue thousands of people from the ocean, but when you hear about the stories of these people, and I think that's something that's important to transmit, the idea of them being sent back to Libya is very hard for us, and it's a very hard one to manage. And while we're not the solution, the stories and nightmares we hear from Libya, the idea that they could be repatriated to Libya is horrifying. I mean, we're talking about, I can't give statistics, but most of the women that we brought in today have been raped and abused. Many of the men have been beaten, and not just once. This is a kind of routine thing that goes on for months and months in Libya. People are robbed. I mean, it's a tragedy. And if you think about, you know, someone said once that society should be measured based on how they treat the most vulnerable. I think we're doing a terrible job there, and I dread to think how we'll be measured in the future by trying to repatriate these people to Libya. I think it's appalling.